Hey guys, welcome back to the CNC Auto Channel. Hey Bagel, how you doing, buddy? Bagel's here. He's working quality control again, production manager Bagel. We're back on the Franken Caddy project today. If you don't remember this is a 2007 Cadillac STS. Got the 3.6 in it. Same problem that almost every 3.6 gets after it gets about 150,000 miles, and that's timing chain stretch. So we're digging into this guy, and I'm going to show you some tips in another video on how to do the timing chain in the car the easy way. But one thing that I want to show you today is, in order to do this job, we're going to have to remove this power steering pulley. And to do that, it takes a special tool, and I wanted to showcase this tool to you, show you how to both remove that pulley and then reinstall it. This is the OEM brand power steering pulley remover for Ford, GM, and Chrysler, part number 37031, but I'll put a link to this down in the description below. By the way, please like, subscribe, and hit that little bell so that you can get a notification whenever I put new content out. A lot of the videos online have different versions of this tool, but this happens to be the best seller on Amazon right now, and I wanted to show how easy it is to remove and replace one of those pulleys using this tool. You don't have to buy one of these tools. You can go down to your local auto parts store and rent one. They may not have this exact model, but they'll have something that's very similar. So the first thing you'd see when you open up this box is that it comes with a few different pieces. This is your removing tool, and it has multiple pieces. And then this is your installing tool, which has multiple pieces. So the way that this works is you have, if I can get it out of there, you have this outer sleeve, which is holding together these two clamshells. These pieces will fall off here. And then you've got this drive bolt, which is used to grab hold of that pulley and drive the shaft, push against the shaft and pull that pulley off. And so let me show you how to use this. So the first thing you do is you back this out almost all the way until that little nub there, the drive tip, is almost flush with this flat face. Okay, and we go over and grab our pieces and go over to the power steering pump, and we're going to put this right there in the center of the power steering pump drive shaft. If you notice, there's a hole here in the middle of this power steering pump, and if you get down real close and look inside of that hole, you'd probably be able to see that there are some threads in there. A lot of time those threads get corroded or rusty, and so do yourself a favor, and before you take this pulley off, get a tap that's the right size for those threads, and hold that pulley and run that tap down into the threads to clean the rust and corrosion out of them. So you get in there and you'll feel it cutting some of that rust and that corrosion, and just back it off a little bit. Now if you wait and do this after you got the pulley off, you'll be trying to hold on to the shaft of this power steering pump, and it'll want to turn on you a whole lot easier. It's just so much easier to hold this pulley and do your tapping. So got most of that corrosion out of there now. Go ahead and back this out, and I'll show you, see if we caught any nasties in the flutes of this tap. All right, let's see. Not much to see there, but there was a little bit of rust in there. All right, now we're ready to take that pulley off. So again, we get our pulley removing tool. We've got this drive bolt backed all the way out, and we're going to set it in place right there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put these clamshells around the center point of the pulley, And you see how these clamshells have these ledges. Those ledges loop in and grab hold of behind this recessed portion of the center of this pulley. So basically we're going to take these clamshells and grab hold of the back side of that. So we put this down there first. Now it doesn't matter really if you use this portion or this portion, just make sure that you're consistent. You see how they look a little different on either side? I'm going to go ahead and use this flatter portion on the back side like that. It seems to grab hold. You'll once you put it in place, you can kind of jiggle it and pull on it a little bit, and you'll see which way seems to feel like it holds better, and that way holds better with these flats back towards the back. So again, we line up our bolt and we put those clams across it like that, and then just snug up the bolt by hand a little bit, holding this center nut, and that'll just sort of stay there while you get your little sleeve. That sleeve slides over the top here, and now the clamshells can't spread apart anymore, and you're ready to drive this bolt in. And as we drive this bolt in, the clamshells and this portion of the tool are going to be coming out on the threads of that bolt. So I've got a little bit of lubricant, in this case some anti-seize on this bolt, and we're going to hold this portion, this nut, steady, and we're going to drive this. And as we do so, it's going to pull that pulley off. So let me get a couple of tools. Okay, so the inside nut is a 21 millimeter. And the drive bolt itself in this tool is a 16 millimeter. So we're going to hold that inside nut with our 21, and we're going to put either a wrench or in this case a socket, just because it's easier and faster, on the drive bolt. And as we turn or tighten the drive bolt, watch this pulley and watch this gap between the pulley and the pump itself. As we drive, you'll see that pulley start to pull away. See that gap getting wider, so you know it's working. Now if you had an impact and you had enough room in front of here to use an impact, it just comes off super easy. But this is not hard at all with just a regular wrench, or in this case a socket. And you just keep backing it off. It's going really nice and easy, and we're almost there. There we go. That's it. So we have just removed that pulley. Now we take it over here to the bench. Just set it down. And you can take off your retaining ring and the clamshells. And then again, we back that out, but as we were tightening up, it was pushing in, and it was pushing that shaft and pulling this pulley out of the way. All right, so now it's time to put our pulley back on the power steering pump. So we're going to need the installer tool. The installer tool in this set is this one here. Okay, now it comes with two different bolts. The difference between these bolts is, if you look real close here, the difference between these bolts is the diameter and the thread pitch on these guys. So you need to find which one fits the threads on the inside of the shaft for your particular application. So remember, down here on the inside of this shaft, we've got threads. Now, as I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you clean those threads out. So find a tap that's the right size for those threads. You want to make sure that those threads are cleaned out. And if you forgot to do that while you had the pulley on, you can still try and do it and hold on to this shaft of the power steering pump. It's kind of hard, obviously, to hold on to that. Some people will say, you know, go ahead and wrap some tape around here and put a pair of vice grips on there, but that could damage and this shaft surface, so I don't like to do that myself. All right, so we'll go ahead and take this tap out of the way. And so here's our installer tool, and the installer tool has got a bearing on it here. So see how the bearing has the ability to drive a flat surface here but turn on the inside, and then you've got this bolt that is going to thread into the shaft to hold this nice and straight while we tighten this bearing. That bearing is going to push that pulley in place. So again, find the bolt that comes in your kit that's got the right size threads to thread into the center of this power steering pump shaft. So we'll get our pulley here. Remember, it came off with this side here out, which has the area for the clamshells to grab hold of so that it could be pulled off. So we want to make sure that we put it back on the right way. And so what you do is you just give yourself some threads sticking out of here, go through the center of that hole, and you see I've got enough threads sticking in. Now come look at this from the top, and so we're going to thread this in. You see? We're going to thread this in to that power steering pump shaft. Okay. Now this this pulley is just flopping around here loose. We're going to tighten up the drive bearing, and we're going to center that pulley. You can kind of put it where it won't go onto the shaft, but it'll kind of center up on the shaft. So just sort of set it up there where it is centered up, and then tighten up your drive pulley. Just make sure that when you screwed in this bolt here into the power steering pump shaft, you got at least 4 or 5 different threads worth of bite. Okay, that way it doesn't pull out. Now we're tightening this drive bearing up, and so we're going to turn this nut and hold this one steady. By doing so, we're going to force that pulley back onto the shaft. So let's get our wrenches that we need. So this inner nut that we're actually going to turn is a size 18 millimeter, and this outer bolt that we're going to hold in place is a size 14. I've got a ratcheting wrench here just because it'll make it a little bit easier, a little bit faster. We're going to put that ratcheting wrench on here, and again we're going to drive that in, so we're pulling that in, but we want to hold this bolt steady, so we're going to put the socket in reverse, and we're going to drive this wrench in. So I'm holding this socket steady, and I'm driving in on the drive bearing. Now alternately, you can hold this drive bearing steady and turn the whole apparatus in the left direction with your socket. Both of them are doing the same thing, which is driving this pulley back onto the shaft. I'm just doing it this way because it's easier. Now this is going on very easily. You don't feel any binding if you're doing it right. The pulley is nice and straight. If it's going cockeyed and kind of wobbling around, you probably got it on there. Now come look at this from above, and look at this gap here between the pulley and the power steering pump again, and you'll see how that gap is getting smaller as we drive this pulley into place. A lot of people ask, well, when do you know you're done? Do you have to line up this pulley with the other pulleys and sort of eyeball them or anything like that? Well, no. What you know you're done whenever it bottoms out. So here we go. It's very easy to turn. Oh, there we go. It's stopped. Okay, it was turning very easily, but now it's stopped. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the tool because it's stopped. We're going to loosen this tool. back off a little bit on our drive bearing, and then we're going to back the bolt out of the shaft. Now I want you to note, see how this is flush? This shaft, the face of the shaft is flush with the face of this part of the pulley. So that's how you know that you put it on all the way. It's going to stop. You don't have to worry about lining up pulleys. You don't have to worry about, you know, mismatching some drive pull, your drive belts or anything like that. It'll stop when it, with this particular tool, whenever it bottoms out. You don't have to own one of these kits. You can go down to your handy dandy local auto parts store, and most of them will rent you one. But the problem that I find with the ones that you get for rent are that somebody's rented it and beat it all up and put it back in where, you know, some of the pieces might be missing, some of them might be stripped out, some of them might just not work very well. So if you do this sort of thing regularly, you know, more than, you know, say twice, you might as well just get one of these sets. They're not that expensive. Is this tool Bagel approved? Huh? Is this a good tool? Is this one of your favorites too? Oh yeah, look at that. That's the remover, there's the installer. Yeah, that works really good. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Your friendly neighborhood mechanic and Bagel. We really appreciate you, our fans, and we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment down below. Like and subscribe, especially because subscriptions really help us to reach a greater audience. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see more of. Let us know how we can make this a more valuable experience for you guys. I hope you've been blessed by this time, and I hope that you learned something. Maybe it saves you a little bit of time, a little bit of money. We appreciate you guys, and y'all have a wonderful day.